things to watch for today. We're waiting for the Greek government to officially submit what they're calling a loan extension request, because they do not want to submit a bailout extension request. These words are very important to them because they promised they were never going to ask to extend the bailout. So this is to service the home constituency. It is very unclear. In fact, I think it is unlikely that Europe is going to accept this. Let's see how this plays out. The second thing that we're waiting to see is what the European Central Bank will do. They meet every other Wednesday, the Governing Council, to decide on things like should they keep giving breathing room to Greece's banks. They're likely going to agree to continue to do so today. The question is how much. They could throw us a surprise, though, right, which would be devastating to Greece. Second thing to watch for. Let's get to now what we put in the teas, which is one of the reasons why the Eurozone is being so tough on Greece, because they fear that if they give in to demands to be looser with Greece on the requirements for the bailout, that will start to give even more power to other similar types of movements in different countries, including Spain. Which brings me to a 36-year-old professor named Pablo Iglesias, who is leading in the polls in Spain, potentially to be the next leader of the country. There you see him there, ponytail. Look at the crowds that he commands. He's been in New York for the last 3 days. He's leaving today. Met with Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz at Columbia on Monday. He came down to the New York Stock Exchange yesterday. We spoke for about 20 minutes. We did most of the interview in Spanish. I can assure you he's an extremely smart individual. He did do some of it in English. He does a pretty decent English. I'm going to play the English part of it for you, just so you can get a sense of who he is. If you could say anything to an American audience, a generally capitalist audience, what would you say?
We can do the things better.
Such as?
For instance, I think we can have governments that work for people and not for the banks.
Do you think you're going to be the next leader of Spain?
I will work for that.
You're only 36 years old. Would you be ready for that?
It's a difficult question. I think that we need young people doing things. I think we have much old people with very old ideas. I think we need new ideas and new people ruling the governments.
So you can see passable English in Spanish, incredibly articulate. He says new ideas, but he is a self-described man of the left. He wants to lower the retirement age. He wants to raise the minimum wage. He wants to restructure the country's debts. He wants to do, I mean, it's a classic leftist position.
Well, he also represents a population there, let's say young men under 40, who are having a very difficult time when it comes to the unemployment picture.
Yeah, youth unemployment is huge there. One thing that he's really been able to capitalize on, and I think here in the United States we could understand this really well, Spain, similar to the United States, their problem was a real estate bubble, a huge real estate bubble. And what is different about Spain compared to the U.S., here in the U.S., if you don't pay your mortgage, you could have $1 million in the bank, but we have non-recourse loans, right? The bank cannot go after all your other assets. You mail in the keys, they call it jingle mail, and you go live in a rental, right? In Spain, they can kick you out of the house, and you still keep paying the mortgage. It's a recourse loan. And so I've not interviewed people like this, but read stories.
Much more pain.
They work for the bank for the rest of their life. Imagine every morning you get up and you don't save. Instead, you're still paying a mortgage of a house you don't live in. So he's been able to tap into that anger.
It's not the asset that they can.
No, they can go after all your other assets.
And if the
well, you're the asset.
You're right.
You're putting yourself on the line.
By the way, that's true in most of the world. The United States is very unique in that way, in terms of having non-recourse loans for real estate. But that's
you understand the populist anger that
comes. You look what's happening. Huge. So Alex Tsipras, who you've interviewed, I know, he was born in 1974. He's 40 years old. Now you've got Iglesias, who is 36 years old. I think there's a natural inclination. I've been to Greece as well. You've been there. You saw the anger. They're frustrated with the old ideas, the old men in ties who haven't done anything for them.